Yes.
What's up, Sunday?
Hey.
What up?
Hey, good to see you, Sean.
How are you?
Oh my goodness.
Good, the lady of the
The
family.
red
What
looks
you
good
got
on you.
cooking?
The red looks good on you.
I took it simple. A little prosciutto and melon. Always good. It'll pair nicely with the whites. Uh-oh.
No, that's all right.
Okay, well, that's okay.
Make it
It's
work.
the blacks in here today.
Oh.
Okay.
Amen.
And then it's wonderful we all bleed red. Come on, same blood.
Who else is coming to visit us today?
Andrey Lemon.
Andrey.
Yes.
Isn't that delicious? That just that name. And you know, she delivers babies. She's a doula. That's what they call her.
Yes.
In this day and age.
Yeah.
Youngster, too.
It's nice, bringing it back.
I'm looking forward to that. That's a lot to talk about
And
with that.
doing a lot with the
Absolutely.
placenta, which I just wait till you hear. You're going to love
Okay.
it. A lot of knowledge here.
Bringing
absolutely.
lives into the world.
Yes,
I know
Yes.
that's right.
Yes.
Which brings me to a topic. How do you guys feel like the perception of gays having children and being parents
Whoa.
and things of that nature?
Interesting.
Is it?
Well, I'm a gay person. I'm a parent.
Well, all right.
And I'm a good one.
Well, you a good one.
Yes.
The food is good. It's
Yes.
a good day.
Hey,
Let's
thank
get this
you.
going.
In the house.
You can put an extra one on my
Here in
plate.
the
They don't
house,
have to.
Sean,
Delicious.
simply
Tell
delicious.
nobody.
Looks good.
I know I got my little extra one.
Antonio,
Yes.
what a statement you made. What you say?
Oh, I'm a good one.
So, yeah,
I'm a
what
good
makes you a good
parent.
parent?
Well, I was intentional.
When you say that, you mean?
Well, I chose to be a parent.
Hey, that makes
You
it
know,
good.
I didn't just get somebody
I know a whole
pregnant
lot of them don't
accidentally.
choose it.
So that's what I mean by intentional. I mean, it was thought about. It's interesting, the story, because I never really thought about being a parent, interestingly. And when it just had never occurred to me. It wasn't something that I said no to. It just never occurred. And back when TiVo came out, you know, that was a long time ago. Remember
TiVo?
TiVo? So you don't even know what TiVo is.
TiVo,
Yeah,
you-
TiVo.
Oh, goodness. Like DVR.
Yeah.
It was the first DVR.
Yeah, so you could DVR programs. And there was a lot of documentaries that were recorded about gay parenting, which is what actually brought the subject to my mind and put it even on my radar. Actually put it on my husband's radar, my ex-husband now, but on his radar. And he's like, it's something I want to tell you. I think that we should become parents. And I was in graduate school at the time, and I was like, I'm in graduate school. I don't have time to be a parent. But as soon as I'm done, and literally, when I was done, I think I graduated in July and started parenting classes. I graduated in June and started parenting classes in July. So intentional was about making the
Wait a minute.
choice.
You did parenting classes?
Yes.
Yes. Well, the route that I
We hear
went,
that a lot in our community.
yeah, I did
No.
foster adopt as the process by which to acquire or become a parent.
Okay.
So that A is required.
Okay.
And so my background was looked
to
into very
know.
deeply, finances, medical history.
Wow.
I mean, what I went
Did
through
you
to
find
become a
that
parent.
offenses?
No.
Or did
not,
you find it
No,
like,
not at all. I actually understood why. I think that everybody should have to do that, quite frankly.
I think that everybody, let me tell you what I think.
Well.
I think that you shouldn't be able to have a child till you pass a test.
Hello. You can't drive a car
what
without
would
passing
the
a test.
test be? What would the test? What would the test be?
Parenting skills, some basic.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a bad idea. I think it's a good idea.
Good.
My degree was in psychology, so I also understood a lot about human behavior. So I think my children have benefited from that. I had the
believe it.
resources. That's what I mean by I think that I was a
Readiness.
good parent. And my children have told me. Actually, my son just graduated from high school.
Okay.
And he told me at his graduation, he thanked me and told me that even though it was rough sometimes with him, and I've always told both of my kids, I take this job very seriously and I'm going to do my job.
And you said that to you said that when they were little.
All their life, because my
Just
little
like
one
your
would say,
grandmother.
yes, she'd say, oh, you're not my friend. No, I'm not your friend, I'm your father, and I take that job very seriously, and I'm gonna do my job, and you're not gonna always like it.
That's so needed in our community because,
Yeah.
I mean, between the private prison system, you know, in full effect, you know, which is the new enslavement trade, so many of us are gone.
Cheryl,
and
but
we,
as the woman at the table, I have to bring this question to you. You've mentioned that your mother did not want to have children and that you were a surprise from an abortion gone wrong, and that you've also mentioned that you yourself was impregnated at a very, very early age.
Very early.
So what does this whole birth process actually mean to you? I'm really fascinated about your thoughts on this.
You know, my mother was broke in the heart of the ghetto of Cleveland, and real rough. So she went and took care of her business. You know, paid money, got up on a table. You know, got the abortion. 2 weeks later, gushing blood, rushed to the hospital, and they said, well, you know, you're pregnant. She said, no, I took care of that. And I said, you may have thought. She said, well, get rid of it. And she said, the doctor said, no, if we don't pack you, you'll bleed to death. So certainly she didn't want me. And that's a lot to understand, you know, at a young age.
Do you believe it as not want or not ready?
She wasn't ready. She couldn't afford it. That's why I said in the ghetto of Cleveland.
Have you ever had any desire to have children of your own?
Well, mine's got killed in a car accident.
Oh.
Yeah,
Oh my
the
goodness.
only one. So once Eric got killed, I think you said that earlier. The one thing that was never going to happen to you again was a heartbreak.
Yeah.
And that's how
That's
I
your
felt.
heartbreak.
Done. We have to say to the parents of young kids, you know, most of all, young parenting, the parents that are super young, that they can seek advice.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by the parenting classes. I just really, you know, it makes so much sense. It's something that's not talked about. It's not discussed.
enough.
So, and I guess
Us.
people who are going through the process understand that. But if you're not going through that process, then you don't realize that this is a resource available. And I think it should be known so that people who are considering the process know that they don't have to feel like they've got to figure it out alone. I mean, think about everything. Just the idea of coming out is this whole, I hate that.
You
This
hate the
idea
word?
that I have to explain to everyone else what's going on with me that I can't even understand myself. And now I've got to, in some way, explain it to you or justify my existence to you. And then now the idea of taking on the responsibility of another life, because once you are a parent, your life is no longer your own.
I agree.
You know, one of the things that I found interesting, I think I was lucky because we did it in California in a particular environment. Like when my kids were in elementary school, they were like one of 5 or 6 kids in their class with gay parents. So they were growing up in a very different world than if I maybe lived in a different part of the country.
True.
I think those gay parents who have children, the community responds to them differently.
Yeah.
You know, and who you get to be as a parent. Like I was able to be free and welcomed, and you know, I never missed a PTA, or I was probably the loudest parent in the audience, screaming for my baby. But the truth of the matter is, we had a lot of support from the community.
That's needed when
You
it
know,
comes
a lot of support. And I think marriages, relationships need support as well. Like whatever it is that you're choosing to do in building your life, having that support of friends and family, the community, that's the difference in whether it succeeds or fails oftentimes. And I think a lot of what we suffer with as gay people in a society that has rejected for so long sets many of us up for failures, unfortunately, and we have to work that much harder, you know, to get beyond it.
In our community, when do you normally hear the word parenting?
Court, when they force you, and it's punitive. It comes off as punitive.
When the baby get taken into
Yep.
DCFS, that's when people have to go to parenting. We have to have a dialogue as much as possible around that to encourage that before something about the social workers in the community, in our black community.
So you know, sometimes we don't think about how our homophobia leaks into our job and our profession. And so we have situations where we have social workers, et cetera, people who make decisions about who gets to be parents, who bring their personal bias into the situation and potentially block gay people from being able to even adopt or be foster parents because they control that lever.
Yes.
And so what happens with those kids who end up having to age out of foster care because there wasn't a family available when you have good families who want to adopt? So I'm curious about what you guys think about how this personal bias can prevent children from being able to have parents and end up wards of the court until they turn 18.
True.
That's true.
Yeah.
I mean, well, it's sort of traditionalist. I mean, I think people who are vetted in tradition, it's hard for them to see outside of what they understand or know from how they were raised or how they've seen other people being raised. And so the idea of, I mean, people struggle enough with just the relationship.
That's true. So true.
So just even having the relationship, just even introducing someone at Thanksgiving dinner, and then now you say, oh, now we're going to introduce another child
Into this.
situation. And I think the religious piece is a huge piece, because if I, in my religious beliefs, believe that you just even being together is so incredibly wrong. You now raising children with values like yours.
Right.
And they never get to know
an
what those
abomination.
values really are.
Right. Yes.
That's the problem,
They're
right?
prejudging.
Prejudging.
Yeah. No, not even prejudging, just
judging.
But I can imagine a person with those beliefs thinking that they're doing the right thing.
Sure.
They are fighting for children in their mind.
Yeah.
In their mind.
By preventing them
The road to
from
hell
being
was
raised.
paved on good intention.
Yeah.
Say that again, Antonio.
The road to hell was paved on good
you
intention.
see what I'm saying?
Come on now.
Yes.
And so that's I see this topic is like, wow, this is difficult, because when it comes, I can see a person saying, okay, if it's your personal relationship, okay, I can maybe excuse that, but now.
And I resent the overgeneralization, because stop acting like you care about all children of the world.
Hello.
Okay.
Because it really might be an act.
You know what I'm saying?
When you go deeper, it might just be an
When
act.
it's really just about the children in your particular family, or the children in your particular church.
That you worry
or
about, that
or
you
the
concerned
people that are connected to you, because there's plenty of children around the world who are in need, and you could care less.
I heard that. Well, let me tell you, my girl. Wait a minute, I think she here. She cares.
Really? Oh,
yeah,
God,
she
I'm
bring
so
life
excited
into
to meet
the
her.
world. Wait a minute, is that you? Hey, come on in. Come on into the house. Look, y'all. Andre.
Like a-
Yes, indeed.
Like a
What's
breath
up,
of
I
fresh air,
know.
like sunshine. Just
Thank you. Hi,
we got
how you doing?
high. Climate change. Climate change.
Yes.
We're conscious.
Thank you.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
All right.
Indeed.
well, welcome.
Thank you, thank you,
Get the
thank
royal
you.
treatment in the house.
Hi, how are you?
Aaron.
Nice to meet you, Andre.
Oh, here's Sean. Check out the food.
Good evening.
We finna feed you. You know that.
Thank you, that looks delicious.
In the house.
So tonight we got a 3-cheese ravioli with mascarpone cheese on top. Enjoy. And basil pesto.
Thank you.
Delicious.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
I got one
so
quick
good.
question. Where do I suppose to put this napkin? Should it be up here or down here?
On your lap
lap,
is
sure.
best.
Yes.
You know.
Okay, well,
Wherever you
thank
want
you.
Probably under your
Wherever
chin, because
you
you've been
want.
drooling ever since she came in the house.
Listen at you. Listen at you.
Just saying.
So I am excited to tell everybody about what you do. Tell us what you do.
So I'm a doula. I'm a birth and postpartum doula, so I help families bring new babies into the world.
Wow. Antonio's a parent.
Yeah, different approach. So I didn't go through the birthing process, so I find it fascinating. I mean,
Not
I
physically,
didn't, no, I
you
didn't watch
did,
it either.
right.
No, I didn't watch it either, because my children are adopted.
Okay.
So I didn't go through that early process of the birth itself.
Yeah. But you did have a birthing experience. It wasn't physical, right? But you were birthed into fatherhood
love that.
Thank
by
you.
adopting children.
Thank
right?
you. I
So
like that.
birth
I can
is-
embrace that.
Yeah.
I embrace
Right.
that.
It's
Thank
It's
you.
nice. It feels good, too, when you say it.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, what was your question again?
It was about, is that something that's done at home?
Oh,
Or
no,
is-
so you can have a home birth. A lot of people don't know that you can have a home birth, but I support families in birth centers, hospitals, home births, cars, wherever.
Because I think sometimes
Clinics.
people think about it as something as alternative to the hospital. Is it a part of that process as well, or?
Well, it can be, and I think that it should be. I think that if you go back in history, if like even on cave drawings, you would always see 3 people at the birth. It would be the midwife, the birthing person, and the doula. So the doula is someone who is experienced in birth. So back in the days, it would be an auntie or a grandmother or your mother, because they had been supporting women during birth. And so now, we're showing back up in the birth and changing the landscape.
What about the gay family and what's going on with them within this world of giving birth, specifically lesbians?
Well, I think that, there's some things that evens the playing field, and so a lesbian family giving birth is a family
Right
giving
on.
birth. They might
Right
have
on.
different challenges in finding care providers that look like them, that are living the same lifestyle, but birth is an emotional experience. It's actually 80% emotional, 20% physical.
Wow, what
That's
a
an interesting
percentage.
shift in
Wow.
perspective.
Yeah,
The
so-
percentage breakdown.
Why is that breakdown that way?
Well, the physical part happens on its own for the most part. Like I've always told my clients, a woman in a coma could give birth in a room by herself. And unfortunately, we have proof of that from a few years ago. Right, but it really is, because it's not just the birth of the baby, it's the birth of the parent. And so it's a transformative experience. And then also when you consider back when our mothers were giving birth, there wasn't a lot of information. There was definitely more birth trauma and birth neglect. And so our mothers have a lot of fear surrounding births. And so they tend to share those with the next generation. And so a lot of the work that I do is unpacking the emotional luggage surrounding birth.
Oh, what a way to put that.
And I think that actually people, they're afraid of birth, but as they get closer to the birth, they realize it's really more the fear of the parenthood. Because the birth is the easy part.
The commitment is the difficult part.
Parenthood that's the word.
But I've always thought that giving birth was like one of the most painful experiences a human being can go through.
Not necessarily. It can be. So also you have to think like there's things that can be triggered by birth, like women who have experienced domestic violence or physical abuse, or if you had a mother that wasn't nurturing, then that will intensify your experience, your physical experience. If you don't have proper support, or lack of compassion, a lack of understanding what's happening to your body, then fear begets more pain.
I had a mother, and the nurturing between me and my mom was very strained. And you'll really appreciate, I was a 12-year-old mother. Could you imagine?
So sorry.
Yeah,
I'm sure you're happy that
most
you have
people think it was a
baby,
rape, and it wasn't. It was my 13-year-old preacher's son. So, but it affected my sex life. And so,
Absolutely.
I had no real help.
Did
So
you feel
you're giving
supported? You
help.
didn't feel supported?
Oh, I had none. This was back in the day. All I was ostracized.
Right.
And I became a thing.
Yes.
And of course, it just darn near destroyed the rest of my life.
And that shame affects your birth, right?
Oh, my God.
It impacts your birth experience.
You better, I don't
And the
even
nurses in
remember.
the hospital.
It was so intense, and the pain was so intense. I had natural birth at 12.
Right.
Because my mother kept saying, you bet not call me until you ready. And it was fear instilled, because if she was like, if I come off that job, I'll lose my job. You know these white folks. And so by the time I had the baby, they were like, why didn't you tell somebody? Out of fear to bring her off that job before I was ready.
Right.
But you said unpacking the emotional baggage. Ooh, Chris, you hear that?
You heard, you probably have heard this, that women have a higher pain threshold than men.
I think we do. I think that women are stronger by nature. The uterus is actually the strongest muscle in the body.
I love that. A lot of people don't know these are facts.
Absolutely.
People think that women are like the weaker sex, and biologically they're actually stronger.
Stronger, absolutely.
How did you get into this, Michael?
It's my calling. So I think I received my calling when I was around 10 or 11. At the time, I thought I wanted to be an OBGYN because I didn't know any better. And I remember being in kindergarten and begging my mom's friends to allow me to go to their births, and no one would.
Wow.
They never took me seriously. And so when I first went to college, I was actually pre-med. And I remember sitting in a class, and this professor was going off about amoebas and stuff, and I was like, yeah, but this isn't it. Like, this isn't what I want to do. And so I ended up doing other things, like I traveled the world, I DJ'd in New York, I was a makeup artist in the entertainment industry.
Wow.
And after September 11th, I went to Thailand for 3 months to heal myself because I had been suffering from depression. And I came back brand new, and I was in an appointment with my therapist, and I was like, oh, I've wasted my life. I wanted to be an OBGYN. I'm 32 years old now, it's too late. And she said, you know, Andrey, I think you would make a great doula. I would hire you. And I said, well, what's a doula? And when she told me, it was just like, da-da. Like, you heard the bell. It made perfect sense. Yeah, do you have children?
No, I have no desire to. We've talked about this. I don't really date, so it just doesn't fit into my world. So.
Although we may be changing, because those two over there, I love bugs. It might come over this
very
way.
pro-relationship. I don't know if
how
that fits in your world. Single people.
Oh yeah, I have clients that are single parents by choice. It's important that I think that if that's what you're going to do, that you line up a support system. That's very important. But and the truth is, sometimes married couples, there's a single person raising children often because the responsibility tends to fall on one person. Yeah, but I think it's a personal choice.
I'm very curious in terms of when you're opting to do this. This sounds so intimate, and so personal. So in terms of your lifestyle, what are your lifestyle choices? So how do you actually identify?
Well, I'm married to a woman, so
Okay.
people would identify me as lesbians, but I'm definitely one of those persons that don't subscribe to a label.
Have you ever been with a guy?
Yeah, I had.
Okay.
Yes, I did. Yeah, I was. I had my daughter with her father. Who
Okay.
I was in a relationship while my wife and I were separated before we were married. Right. So yeah, I mean, I would.
So you're refusing to get in the box?
The bisexual box, you don't. That's
No,
not-
I don't consider myself bisexual. I don't consider myself bisexual. I mean, now I'm married, so my wife is the only, I mean, that's who I'm attracted to. So, but I'm comfortable. My wife is a little bit more tomboyish because I like the masculine energy. I'm comfortable with men, but I feel like I have better just because we have so much in common.
Yes.
So how does that translate then as you're actually getting clients? How do people find you, like in terms of this level of intimacy, and then how does your personal life, your sexuality, and all of that play into the comfort level of someone choosing you as their doula? Like,
Well, I get a lot of my clients from Yelp. God bless Yelp.
Oh, wow.
And partly because my clients write very personal stories because I do go on a very intimate journey with my clients. Most doulas do 2 appointments before the birth, but I was actually a student midwife for several years. I finished all my clinicals. I went to the Philippines. And before I took the test to become a midwife, I realized that I love the role of a doula because we support like emotionally, spiritually, and as a care provider, you don't do that. As much. And so I find that maybe I have it a little easier because we're in Los Angeles, so people are a little bit more open. I've never found that my sexuality has ever been an issue with my clients because it's just, for them, it's Andrey showing up as a strong person, being nurturing and supporting.
And that's what matters. Tell us about the placenta. I tell them, girl, after I read
The placenta.
Tell us
About the
I
placenta
didn't even
encapsulation?
understand. Yes, the placenta
that?
and encapsulation.
So the placenta is basically, it's pretty much the life source for the baby. So once an egg and a sperm connect, that turns into a zygote, is traveling down the fallopian tubes into the uterus, and then on the outer lining of that cells, these spikes come out, they attach themselves to the uterine wall. And so the placenta is known as the tree of life. And so it's full of resources. It has vitamin B, it has the stress-reducing hormone, it has oxytocin, it can help to balance mood swings, it can help with milk production, hair loss. I think whales, dolphins, and humans are the only mammals that don't eat our placentas. I think we probably used to, and then the Catholic
That's
Church
what I
probably
was
said
getting ready
that's
to say.
barbaric.
Oh,
We shouldn't do that anymore.
Hold on. Who said? Don't say it. What you say? That? Who said it?
I said the church probably said that's
Oh.
barbaric. You shouldn't do that anymore. So people, but also mammals, others, they do it in the wild, not just for the nutritious value, but so that the wild can't find, their young. And so people have the choice. You can encapsulate it.
When you say that word is encapsulated.
Because it's encapsulated into little vegetable capsules. But sometimes some people will actually drink it in a smoothie. I've done that before when I cut it
Raw.
up. And
I read it.
Yes, you
Raw.
put it into a smoothie.
It's 2 ways that.
Who drinks it?
The
Just
mother.
the mother? Just the mother?
Yeah.
And what are the 2 ways you can consume the placenta? I read about.
So you
them.
could
The tea.
drink the placenta. You can make a tea. You can make a tincture. You do capsules. Most people do the capsules. So that I treat it as a sacred organ. I'm very respectful when I'm doing. I'm mindful of the music. I'm a music lover, so I'm mindful of the music that I play.
Why? That affects the brain in the moment, doesn't it?
Music?
Do you need that when you're doing the
Well, music is just a part of my life. Like, it's just, I used to DJ while I was in New York, so
Right.
music is
Heard
just
that.
a part of my life. So I'm very mindful of the music that I listen to. So one time I was doing the placenta and Biggie came on and I was like, ooh, I don't know if this is appropriate. And then he said, I get so deep up in your placenta. I was like, okay, right. Just as I was thinking, see how spirit speaks to you? I was thinking, like, I don't know if this is appropriate.
yeah.
And then that's what he says. So I was like, okay, we're good.
It's okay.
Yeah, so when I can encapsulate it, I take the cord off, I drain the blood blood, I slice it, I put it in the dehydrator, and then I grind it into a powder form and put them in capsules, and the mother takes them.
That's the raw technique, right?
Wow.
Yes, the traditional Chinese, the TCM technique is when you actually heat it first, because in traditional Chinese medicine, the belief is that you lose a lot of heat when you give birth, and so they want to warm the body up slowly. So before you encapsulate it, you steam it with like maybe some ginger, which is a warming herb, and lemons.
I remember, just like you.
Sure.
You know, that brings me to COVID and how this has impacted, you know, your business and within hospitals and fear.
It's had a huge impact on birth workers because we're not allowed into the hospitals at this time. And so, I mean, I'm curious to how other birth workers are making it. I mean, between February and last month, I've booked 3 clients. I'm usually doing 3 to 4 per month.
Wow.
And so it's changing, and there has been an increase of inductions in the hospital, an increase of cesareans.
Inductions.
So inductions are when they manage your birth and they tell you it's time for you to give birth, so we're gonna start the process for you.
That shouldn't happen, huh?
And there's some cases where that's necessary. If you have a mom that's preeclamptic, or if there's some issues going with the baby, but not just because you hit a date. Yeah, and so, and because of that, that impacts the labor experience, because you're spending the entire your entire experience before labor starts in the hospital.
Okay, well.
Because they're inducing it. But you're suggesting that in some way that the inducing is a bit more of a strategy based on scheduling and a certain time frame as opposed to a natural progression.
Because that's what needs to happen. Absolutely. I think that, I mean, in terms of that transition to becoming the mother, so what happens 3 days after you give birth, all of your hormone levels drop. And people don't talk about this, like to really be transparent about what the experience is from birth into the postpartum, which we refer to now as the fourth
trimester?
The fourth trimester, right? Because it's a very fragile and vulnerable time for the new family. And so, like I was saying, 3 days after you give birth, all of your hormone levels drop. And women are uncomfortable, you know, if there's sutures, sometimes there's birth traumas, your breasts are sore, you're leaking milk, you're crying, you don't know why am I crying because I love the baby so much or because I'm scared. And so it's important for people to be able to hold space for that. And so oftentimes, you know, most people want to come over and watch baby TV, come and hold your baby, and that's not what the new family needs.
Wait a minute, what you call it, girl?
Watch baby TV, right? They just want to come over and see how cute the baby is, but no, like, come bring food. Take the trash out on your way out. Stay for 15 minutes, unload the dishwasher.
That's some tips right now.
You know, that's what people need. So I always tell my clients, when people ask you what you need, tell them to order some food from you, from your favorite restaurant down the street. You don't need people to come over and hold your baby. Sometimes when I do my postpartum visits with my mother, it's holding her for 10 minutes while she cries, putting her in the shower and then changing her bed linen and making her bed when she comes out and tucking her in.
How long does, are you talking about postpartum depression?
Well, no, that's something that could be a part of postpartum, but even without postpartum depression, it's a very fragile time.
So it's a period of time. Postpartum is a period after giving birth. How long is that period?
6 weeks.
6 weeks, okay.
Have you ever seen a birth, like, right there?
No, real life, no.
You?
I haven't.
Anybody, you here? You remember the big old cam corners, right? Remember those? I just got one. I went to my niece. I come in the room, you know, with the cam corner, stuck it in, because she was at that point going through, you know, that it was close, but I ran in the room and stuck it in the nurse's face, like, do you ever lose sight of the miracle this is? When the baby, when the head came out, the camera, I threw the camera. I just pitched the camera, got to screaming. I've never seen anything like that in my life.
Were you triggered by that birth?
The miracle was too much for me to comprehend.
I did a peyote. I went to a peyote ceremony where the people may know them as shaman, the people who facilitate the peyote ceremonies. It used to be run by women.
Yeah, a friend of mine, named Allie, she is into that. Yeah,
but then men took over. So they said that what they would do is when the people were coming in to bust up the ceremonies, the men would keep the seat to keep the woman safe, and then they just took over, because there's a lot of power in being able to, like, this is the womb of the world. Like, we all start from water, it's filled with water. We birth nations.
That's why swimming is so healing.
Absolutely.
I didn't understand it. You're going back in the womb.
Absolutely. And water births, definitely. Like water, I had a water birth. I gave birth in the tub. But water, it's the liquid epidural. Right, and that's because like if my pain was at an 8, 9, and I sat in that tub where you become floatless, and there's thousands of pounds of pressure on your womb, and because the mind is very powerful, right? So if in the beginning, like this is me in labor going, this is some bush. This is some bush. Right? And then I got into the water and I felt weightless and I felt hugged by the water. And I mean, I was surrounded by people who were praying over me. My girlfriends were braiding my hair and singing to me. And it was magical because water feels like home.
I tell anybody,
well.
any injury you got, get in the water.
Yeah.
It's mind blowing. And especially you got injuries in here.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I had a lot of those. Swimming has helped me, and I believe that's why I'm wanted in this womb. When I go down in that water, I'm like, this is the womb that wants
absolutely.
me.
That's the salt water is very healing. Like a lot of people go to the salt water to be healed. And actually, when I do hypnosis with my clients, and I usually take them to the ocean and allow them to kind of rest and give everything to the water and let Yamaya wash it all away.
You really have a light. Curious?
Oh, so Andrey, you've touched on so many different aspects of what you really bring to the table, from just that, the idea of creating this circle of energy and helping a family bring life, but then helping them understand what that means, not only to the new life that they're birthing, but then the new life that they're birthing for themselves.
Absolutely.
Because they are now, and I love that you said that, it's not just the birth of the child, but it's also the birth of motherhood and the birth of fatherhood. So that then there's this triage that's happening. And then this nurturing and care that you're providing. What is it? What is that element that you're creating, that circle of trust that is happening? How do you...
Circle of trust.
How do you build that and create that?
Well, I do that I spend a lot of time with my clients. I somewhat follow the midwifery calendar, so I see my clients once a month until they're 36 weeks, and then once a week until they give birth, and I'm with them during the labor. And we're spending an hour in your home, sitting crisscross applesauce, drinking teas or whatever. And so we're using that time to not only get informed and get educated and unpack that emotional luggage, but most importantly to build trust and get to know one another. Because when you give birth, if you have a doctor, your doctor's in the room for usually all of 20 minutes. It's once they see the baby's head that they call the doctor in. Right, but I'm coming to your home. Like, I have women sitting on the toilet nude with their head in my bosoms, or, you know, like me cooking foods for the fathers, or like, let's say it's a home birth, and after, while the midwife is doing all the baby exams, I'm in the kitchen making breakfast for the family. And so we're using those appointments to really get to know one another and build trust. And that's important in the birthing process, for there to be a lot of trust, because once again, it's a very fragile and vulnerable time, especially for women who are giving birth naturally. Like, if someone has an epidural, you know, they're like Snapchatting, you know, because they're disconnected from the process. But when women are giving birth naturally, the hormones are running to kind of help you to get through all of these hurdles. And so, like, between 7 and 10 centimeters is the transition, and you'll literally see women. That's why I know she's getting close, because she looks high. Like, she doesn't even see me anymore. She's looking through me. Like, they get a little bit more woozy, and so.
More births in the gay community with same parent? Like, it's happening more.
Yeah,
with
absolutely. Yeah, and then I've
How long
supported.
have you been doing this again?
I mean, I probably went to my first birth when I was like 19,
So
but I wasn't training. But then I took my training in 2000.
Okay, you've seen the change, so now
Absolutely.
same-sex marriages.
Absolutely. And I wanted to say, I supported a few families in the postpartum where there were the same-sex fathers.
Yes.
In one family in particular, they used one of the father's sperm to impregnate the surrogate. And what was interesting, when I came in for that postpartum visit, that baby was crying so much. She was so uncomfortable, and I realized that she was confused. She's wondering, like, where is that woman? You know, because when you're in the womb, you hear the person who's carrying the baby's, the heartbeat, the diaphragm moving, the breath. She could probably, I knew she could hear the dogs in that house and the other children in that house. And so because babies will communicate with you if you listen. And I understood that she was confused. She didn't know where she was or where the people were that she was accustomed to. So I told her her story. I said, these are your fathers. You know, this woman carried you for them, and they love you very much, but this is your home now. You know,
You talked to her.
Yeah, and I encourage them to consider having the person who carried the baby to send a T-shirt, like send something in the mail for her so that she can smell it, because babies are transitioning from the womb into the real world, and they're having a very real experience. The person who's giving birth isn't the only one having that baby is turning, coming down the birth canal. Ooh. It's, you know, being in this tight little coven where they're the safest they'll probably ever be into the whole wide world. Like, they deserve a lot of compassion.
When I hear doula, it sounds like something that will be very expensive.
Could be.
I mean,
I've been to like close to 700 births, so I'm a little.
So it, you know, just oftentimes the things that are best for us are out of reach financially for a lot of communities.
Yes.
And I want, and clearly this is probably not something covered by your medical plan, or is it?
No, it's not. And I think that in the future it will be, because studies show that having doulas reduce C-sections, inductions, postpartum depression. It reduces a lot of that. And so, like for me, I'm more expensive because I have a lot of experience. I bring a lot to the table, but I don't turn anyone down because of my needs, especially Black families, right? Like
I'm wondering how many of us even do it. Is it becoming better?
I mean, there's more. It's very, like whenever I get a Black client, or I'm so excited because it's very rare that we get Black families calling in on doulas. But something I'd like to share that's really saddening to me is that when people call me to talk to me about doula services, every Black person that's giving birth that calls me tells me in our initial conversation that they're concerned because they don't want to die in labor, or they don't want their babies to die. A non-Black person has never said that to me, but every single Black person that calls me for services, the reason they're calling to hire a doula is because they're afraid
It happens
of
that
dying.
much in hospitals.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's mind-blowing.
The number one in like comparable countries.
Number one.
America, yeah. It's probably, you know, because they're treating pregnant people giving birth aren't sick. They're giving
That's true, but
birth. Right, but then you go in and they start doing all of these inductions, and you know, like they were talking about not allowing fathers in the room during COVID, or they were sending fathers home immediately after birth, and the mother would have to be on the postpartum side by herself.
Oh,
So with no nurturing that she really needs at that time.
Absolutely, and the support.
You mentioned induction, and that got me thinking about, you know, we live in LA, and I know I used to be in a club called the Pop Luck Club, which is a club of gay dads.
Catchy.
And some of the dads were accused of their children being like designer children or accessories. That they weren't really there to parent them, but it was more of a fad that they had sort of created this whole situation. I'm not comparing this to
Almost
that,
like
but you
pets.
understand what I'm saying? Yeah.
My stance with my clients is if you like it, I love
it.
Right? So whatever you choose, and we're not always privy to the backstory.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
right.
But I think that, once again, I just feel that my thing is I'm gonna give you, once again, I want you to have the information so that you can make an informed decision, not one based on.
Oh yeah, we were talking about designing families or creating families. So if we step
wait,
back.
Here's Sean. Real quick. Whoa.
That looks good.
Oh, please.
Looks
No
delicious,
worries.
Sean.
So you got a cannoli, keeping with the Italian theme of the evening, and the mascarpone cheese that you had on the ravioli. This is a sweetened version. Oh, enjoy.
Thank you,
you.
Sean.
Delicious.
Thank you.
It's
Thank
delicious.
you.
Love it. How does one differentiate the midwife and the doula? Because that would probably
Oh,
be
that's
a
a
big
great
question.
that's a great question. So the difference between the midwife and the doula is that the doula is your informational support, your educational support, your physical support. For me, your spiritual support. Your midwife is your care provider. That's the person who's going to do your vag exam, suture if you need to, refer you out for ultrasounds and things like that. Although there's a difference between a midwife and a doula. There's a difference between a nurse midwife and a licensed midwife. a certified nurse midwife has gone through nursing school, and so they actually learn the medical model of care. Right?
Okay.
A licensed midwife, where we do the apprenticeship models, like where you learn about intuition, connecting with the babies. It's a lot more hands-on. So the care that you get with the different, there's care, it's just different.
levels.
Different types of care.
Yes,
Level.
but you could also have an amazing human experience with a doctor that is connected to a source. You know, everyone doesn't feel like they just want to put you in a box and practice medicine. I actually had a doctor that met with me, and he said, you know, Andre, the truth is that 80% of these women should be giving birth at home. Like the low-risk women, he said, but doctors won't tell you that because it's competition. And also because they have fear. They don't know what natural birth looks like because they've learned it in books, and they often come out of medical school this way. But some people, I think that it should be mandatory for them to witness home births or out-of-hospital births.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And they often, and another thing that happens in birth is because, remember, in hospitals, they see everything, the worst case scenario. So everyone isn't low risk. They have preeclamptic women, gestational diabetes, you know, other health issues. And so another thing that happens, I think the difference, let's say, between a licensed midwife and a doctor is when they have these emergencies, they just keep going. Like for doulas or for midwives, what we do is we get in circle with each other to process the trauma of that birth so that we don't bring it into the next birth, so that we're not operating from a place
You
of
all
fear.
have therapy with each
Absolutely.
other.
Yeah.
Well, so do you think that that's part of the reason why there's a fear around home birth is because, okay, if anything goes wrong here, we at least know that then there's still going to be a chance to save the situation.
Well, I think that it's important to know that it's low, you know, you have to be low risk to qualify to be able to have a home birth or
Okay.
out of hospital birth,
Got it.
right? And emergencies don't just happen like that. The difference with the midwife is you spend so much time with that midwife and she's connecting with your baby that you see these signs that are creeping up maybe in the prenatal or during the birth. And the truth is that most transfers and home births are for maternal exhaustion. It's not because there's an emergency. It's either maternal exhaustion or let's say the baby it's pooping, there's meconium, and so that baby needs to be washed more closely.
Okay.
Right, and so
So do you recommend a midwife with a doula in every instance?
no, I recommend that people birth with whatever feels right for them.
Okay.
However they're gonna feel the safest.
And
Home birth
as a
isn't for
doula,
everyone.
though, you talk about that so that they
Absolutely.
can get an understanding.
Yeah.
Back to the change that you've seen with gay couples having babies from when you started to now. Talk to us a little bit about that.
I think that it's amazing to see it, not only just the gay couples, but these women who maybe were focused on their career and waited too long. I had a client that just gave birth the other day who was 52 years old.
Oh.
And I had another client give birth in her hallway at 50 years old because they were waiting to get pregnant. So people are choosing what works for them, and I'm just happy that the world is
What in the
changing.
holy grandma having a baby is going on with that?
Well, you know,
Like, I mean, can you imagine taking your child to kindergarten?
I could.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm 50. I would do it. I would have a
heard
baby now.
that.
I loved giving birth.
Because we're taught.
Like I would, yeah.
We're taught. I could do.
But if you have a
whoa.
baby now, you're not going to kindergarten until you're not 50.
I know.
But my kid's going to kindergarten, not me.
Right. And so when they say, oh, you have the cutest little grandbaby.
Oh, no.
And then
Well,
you
I'd say
just
that
what?
the women that I've
Correct?
supported that were up in age, like, they're happy. That's not something that they're concerned. And that actually would be concerned about what people are thinking about you.
I
That has
only
nothing to do
wish
with you.
at this age.
No,
I could have a
okay.
baby. Only wish.
I know I'm being
Only
silly, but at
wish.
the same time, let's also be concerned about you out of breath faster.
The running.
You can't
the
run
playing.
around and chase people.
Yeah.
You're lazier at 50.
See, those are stereotypes.
Stereotype.
It's sounding like the same stereotype, not the same, but the same stereotyping of
It's what
gay
we're
male
taught.
Yeah,
parents.
that's like
They shouldn't be
50?
parents.
Yeah, 50.
People
I'm
over
not
50
saying they
shouldn't be parents.
But at the end of the day, by the time you're, okay, you have a baby at
Calculated.
52.
Yeah.
By the time they are graduating from high school, how old are you?
70, 72.
Oh, spring chicken, honey. What are you talking
Have you seen 70?
70
is
Where
the
new
you
50.
been?
Yes, my mother is.
Child, if you don't
I was
cripple
saying
your
you should
ass
see
up
my
out of here
mother.
going to the graduation, I'm sorry. At the prom, with all this gray hair and shit. Are you kidding me?
I am so surprised.
And it's the saddest thing.
Because I guess I'm thinking when my kids were in elementary school, that was the average age, was in their late 40s.
Understand the wisdom we
early
got
50s.
now?
It's
The
amazing.
wisdom that we have now in order to have a kid, it would be the bomb.
Wisdom and bone structure and agility are two different things.
I know.
But 50 today is not what it was
No,
30
women
years
can't
ago.
even have
How is 72?
It's not the same either.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it's not.
It really
not.
isn't.
That's
Yeah.
They can have a baby because normally you're going through the
All these
changes.
Especially in LA.
gymnast grannies. Okay, I got it.
Especially in LA.
I saw a picture, I think it was Angela Bassett.
Yeah,
she's
yeah,
like
she's
70 and
pushing
looking
it
like
through.
she's 20.
No, she's not.
Okay,
not.
maybe it's not,
She's in her
maybe it's not
60s.
Angela
She's in her
Bassett. It's someone else.
She's in her
It's
60s.
somebody else, around
Does
70,
she
looking
have
30.
a child
Yeah.
under 10?
But the mothers are pushing it through. They're pulling it through at 70, 60, 50.
And usually at that point, like they have support, they're financially secure, like they have things in alignment
And
to
then
be able to support
biologically,
them.
you can't do it.
Yes, you can. Some
Yeah.
people can. If you still get your period, you
Adoption.
can.
Baby.
No, you can
No,
have.
y'all.
Halle
I can get
Berry just
pregnant.
had a baby at 50.
No, I'm saying like even
Diana Ross
even
had
like
2 post-50.
so many are going through
Okay.
the
Felicia
change,
Rashad,
2.
You know.
Yes.
70.
Yes, she's
70 looking
70s.
30, got it. Felicia Rashad, not,
You know
She
Diana
have
Ross
what?
had 2 babies post 50, right?
I
2.
remember she had twins.
Diana Ross. No, they weren't twins.
She-
Year
2 separate
apart
births.
boys, 2 sons, separate births.
Post 50.
And,
after 50.
and,
Yes.
and
I
I'm
remember that.
sure
Yes. And she's
their
70 something now.
experience with their mother was way different than those
Yes.
older children in terms of her ability to interact
Yeah.
and engage with them. I'm just saying.
I don't know, but she probably was more
Physically,
present for them
But-
than she was the
but not
early
only
ones
that,
because she
every-
was on her
She
tour.
can't move that fast.
But every baby gets a different mother. Regardless to
Say that
what,
again. That's
every
a
baby
very
gets
good
a
one.
different mother.
That's right.
Because we're always
Yes,
changing.
you're always
and
born into a different family. Absolutely.
you're always
My sister
changing
didn't have
and
the same mother I had.
Right.
I mean, meaning
But even
my
if you
mother was
if the
very different.
different
She was a different
circumstances when
person.
you're
I would
younger, you're
love
struggling
to ask
more.
these children of grandma mothers that if they had a chance, something different.
What would they pick?
I think they would
be
have
interesting.
chosen to do it earlier, but because they didn't, they weren't going to forsake giving birth and becoming a parent.
Right. You only give
Yeah.
one life, one
Yeah,
body.
absolutely. I mean, how many women regret that they didn't have children because they were putting their career or their partner first? Women are
Seriously,
birthing
when my
families.
kids were...
But that's usually why it happens, though. Let's be honest. Most of these
Yeah, but that's
people who
not a
are
bad
having
thing.
these children often later in life is because they did give up parenting for their careers in this
Well,
area.
they, well, they just delayed it. They didn't necessarily give it up. I'm telling you, when my kids were in elementary school, they went to school in the Hollywood Hills, and most of those were career women who had careers and all that, and they were older. And they were in the PTA and all that stuff, and didn't look like grandmas. These are yoga divas and tight bodies and snatched in
No,
bikinis. Are you kidding me?
absolutely.
Well,
No,
I
they're
always
motivated
say
for that.
you either get
No,
to
they
grow
are,
old
but-
or you make a beautiful
Beautiful
young
young
corpse. So we want to embrace age, that's for sure.
Yes.
I get it. I'm running and
not
playing
being
tennis,
ageist, I'm
and
not.
things
I'm
like that.
You.
You are. I agree with you.
And the kid has to
Right.
go to school with an older parent and those kinds of things. And kids can be mean when they're little. Kids are mean.
They mean anyway, right? So
Yeah,
they'll
yes.
find something.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, as we age, as I am aging, you become less mobile. Things are, it's just not the same.
Do you know I can go into postures that I couldn't go into 10 years ago because I practice yoga?
But also, I think that that's not
You
what's going
practice
to
yoga?
impact
I practice
parenting
yoga.
as much.
20
What's your
years.
favorite
That's a
position?
good point.
No, 20 plus years, I really do.
What's your favorite yoga position?
I love Warrior 3.
Okay.
Yeah, because
Are you going to demonstrate it for us?
I don't know if we got it. Look, let me see.
Uh-oh.
Because it's not about the posture. It's about the breath. Let me see. So it's
All
not
right. Warrior
Your turn.
Get the warrior water, so I ain't even tired.
61.
There we go.
I say wearing age, real swell. Okay. Did not
Stand
do it in my
down.
20s.
Good for
Tortured
you.
my body in my 20s with drugs, jails, and hell. And then was able to get a second chance. And so I've been practicing yoga for a while because it's not about the posture. It's about calming the voices in the mind. But it is the youth serum. So, I mean, you can look at me and see that you can age gracefully. So I feel you in saying, how they gonna run with the kids? They might. So we gotta go, y'all. We gotta wrap it up in the house.
Running.
We are so happy that
all.
you came.
I learned so much.
Oh,
Thank
we
you.
learned so much.
Thank you.
Till next time. Antonio,
Thank you so much.
will you come back to the house? Because in the house, what happens in the house?
Once you come to the house, you're always what?
Family.
Let's have a great time.
About family.
So good.
Thank you for being our guest. Here,
And
let's,
helping deliver more family.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
let's eat the cannoli with some.
All right.